Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of English with Gemma, where we turn English practice into progress. Today is the first time that I'm doing a mini episode. If you've been watching for a while or listening for a while, you might have noticed that I normally upload on Fridays. And if you didn't notice, that's totally fine too. So I really, for a while, have been I've been playing with the idea of recording twice a week. So that's what I'm going to do. Basically, on Wednesdays, I will be uploading a mini-sode. So obviously that means they will be shorter than the regular episodes and the topics will, be a little bit less in depth. They'll still be interesting and all the things that you like about the regular podcast, but they will just be a little bit shorter. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic for our first ever Wednesday mini-sode. So we are going to talk today about the trend that was viral, I would say maybe like a year or two ago, maybe 2 years ago. Um, it was this trend on Instagram, TikTok, wherever, of English teachers making videos that were always like, stop saying very. It was just this huge thing where, like, I just feel like every time you scrolled on Instagram, you would see 10 videos of people just stop saying very, stop saying very. And yeah, we're going to talk about um why that was not the greatest advice. Yeah, let's get into it. So, it was always like, don't say very tired, say exhausted. Don't say very good, say excellent. And it made a lot of people feel really insecure about their English. And it might sound like good advice or a good tip at first glance, which means at the first impression, but it's not the full story. So, we're going to talk about why it went viral, why it's not entirely accurate or doesn't really show the full picture, and also what you can do instead of not saying very to sound more natural without overthinking your English. So, why did this become such a big thing online? Well, mainly because it's catchy. It grabs the watcher's attention within the first like 3 seconds, which, if you are a social media content creator, then you know that you have to try and make a hook at the beginning of the video to get people to keep watching. That's just how the algorithm works. So yeah, this whole stop saying very, it was catchy, it was visual, and it was easy to digest. It was bite-sized, they were very small short videos, and it made you feel like you were learning something useful in a short amount of time. So the idea behind it isn't bad in it of itself. It's meant to help learners use more precise, expressive words like freezing instead of very cold, or tiny instead of very small, which, are very widely used words, and that's great. But here's where it went a little bit wrong. It created this myth that native speakers never say very plus an adjective, and that's just simply not true. And it also made people feel like if they were saying very hungry, very tired, that they were speaking incorrect English, because a lot of the videos, they didn't say, instead of saying very, you can say and give like alternatives. They were literally like making it sound like it was wrong to say very plus an adjective and stop saying very. It was very dramatic. um yeah, so to be honest, the reality is that native speakers use very plus an adjective to emphasize all the time. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So you will hear things like, oh, that's very nice of you, or I'm very sorry. Or it's very difficult to park here. Or wow, that's very interesting. Tell me more. Or that's really interesting. So using very doesn't make your English basic or wrong, it makes it natural. Sometimes forcing a fancier synonym or idiom can actually sound awkward or too formal, and I've had students in the past, especially in my speaking group classes, where there'll be one student who you can tell they do a lot of self-study and they've learned a lot of idioms and expressions, and they'll just throw them into conversation constantly, and it's very unnatural to talk like that. Like instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go to bed, they would say, oh, I hit the hay at 8 p.m. And it's just like, yeah, that's an idiom that exists, but it's really not used very often. And it sounds kind of weird, especially if you're overusing idioms or expressions, you're going to sound weird. So, you have to find the balance between learning expressions, but not over relying on them. So, yeah, for example, instead of saying, oh, that meal was very tasty or very delicious, if you say that was an exquisite meal, then if you're at a casual dinner, you're going to sound weird. It's a bit over the top. Over the top means too much, excessive. So the key is not to delete very from your vocabulary, it's to know when to use it and when to switch things up so you don't sound too repetitive. So now I want to quickly talk about when can we use alternatives. Learning those alternatives to very plus an adjective is still very useful, especially in your writing or when you want to be really expressive. So here are a few examples which are fine. Very tired, exhausted. Most of the time, if I want to express that I'm very tired, I'll say, oh, I'm exhausted today. Very cold, freezing. Instead of saying, oh, it's very cold today, it's freezing today. Very funny, hilarious. She told a very funny joke. Yeah, it's fine, but she told a hilarious joke. It just sounds way better. Very scared, terrified. I was terrified when I was watching that scary movie. Very big, enormous, or huge. Instead of saying, oh, their house is very big, their house is huge, their house is enormous. So these words give your English more color, emotion, and variety. So instead of thinking, I must never say very, you can think sometimes I'll use very and sometimes I'll mix it up and use some alternatives. If you do that in a balanced way, if you are equally using very plus adjective and those alternative emphatic adjectives, that is what real native speakers do. They use a balanced amount of very and other words. So that is kind of the goal that you need to be doing or striving for. So, with that in mind, here is your quick English challenge for the week. I want you to write 5 sentences using very and then rewrite them with those stronger adjectives, with those alternatives. For example, I'm very hungry, I'm starving. It's very hot today, it's boiling. The film was very good, the film was excellent. So then you ask yourself, which one sounds more natural depending on the situation? Is it a casual chat with a friend or is it a formal writing or an essay? So before we wrap up today's first mini-sode, I can see on my timer it's been about 10 minutes, which is amazing. That's exactly what I wanted to do. We are going to go over some weekly wins that you guys have shared over the past couple of videos. So I'm just going to read a few of them. And if you're new here or if you haven't listened for a while, basically weekly wins are just good things that happen in your life or in your English learning journey. And I ask you guys to share them in the comments below, either on Spotify or on YouTube. So, Priscilla 17B or I7B, sorry if I mess up the usernames. She says, My weekly win was that I finished reading my first book totally in English. Congratulations, Priscilla. That's amazing. It was the book, a classic, Anne of Green Gables. It was a bit hard. I need to confess, but I did it. I understood the history pretty well, which is great, by the way. I recommend this book 9 out of 10. So, not only did Priscilla read her first book fully in English, she also gave us a recommendation. So, that's awesome. Thanks, Priscilla, and well done. Mateus says, my weekly win was doing an interview in English. Now, this is a huge deal. If you can finally feel comfortable and confident enough to do a job interview in English, then you're doing something right. And even if it didn't go well, it's still great practice. That's what I always say to my students. Like, just use every interview as a practice to get better. And that helps you to not put too much pressure on yourself. Of course, if you really, really want the job, sometimes it can be tricky to have that like casual, laid back attitude of, oh, I'm just using this as a practice. But the more you do those types of things, like interviews in English, or I don't know, public speaking in English, or giving presentations at work in English, the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to become. So it's just part of your process and part of your journey. So well done, Mateus. And I hope that your interview went well and that you get the job. And the last weekly win is from a username, which I know I'm going to mess up. It's Kagla Sagalit. I don't know. It's just Kagla somebody. Um, they say, my weekly win was trying to heal and keep going, learning English for my future life after surgery. It's still hard, so I just wanted to share. Well, firstly, prioritize your health. That's the most important thing. English takes a back seat when you've got health issues going on. Trust me, I know I've had some health stuff in the past and ongoing, and you always have to prioritize your health, because if you're not healthy and you don't heal properly, then you can't show up in other areas of your life. So the most important thing is taking care of your mental health, your physical health, and then all the other stuff comes after that. Because realistically, if you're not feeling your best, then you can't do your best and you can't show up for yourself and for others um, in the best way. So take your time. I hope that you feel better soon. And yes, definitely take that extra time to heal and then come back to your English learning journey stronger and better than ever. So thank you guys so much for listening or watching. I hope you enjoyed this little mini-sode. And yes, this is going to be our new posting schedule. Every Wednesday, a mini-sode, and every Friday, a full episode. So I really appreciate the support. Oh, and really quickly before I go, we're almost at 50,000 subscribers. Okay. I still have like 10K to go. But for me, being above 40,000 subscribers on YouTube is so exciting. And I'm just like, my mind is blown. I appreciate all the support from you guys. I love reading your comments. I love that you are building a community within English with Gemma. And it's just, yeah, I'm very grateful and I'm very happy to be doing this. So thank you guys. Keep showing up, and I promise I will keep showing up. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.